Hi again, students. I'm here today with Denise Becton. Denise is a writer and also an academic here at CQU, and I've asked her to come today to talk to me about a particular novel that had, well, your favourite novel, or is it just
It's one of my favourites.
Okay, so what is the name of the novel?
The novel is called Flowers for Algernon, and it was written in 1966, so it's quite an old novel, and it's by Daniel Keyes.
And what's it about?
It's about, the main character is Charlie, who's a 32-year-old man who has an intellectual disability, and he undergoes an experiment to reverse his intellectual disability.
Right, that's right, because I remember seeing it in the movie
Yes.
called Charlie, very old movie.
Yeah, I
probably
think
in
it's
the
70s.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so, why did that movie have such an impact? Oh, why did that book have such an impact on
Well,
you?
the movie was good, but I particularly liked the book because it, for two reasons. From a writerly perspective, you follow Charlie's journey through the grammar and spelling mistakes that he makes in a diaristic form to start with in his reports. And then as he undergoes his experiment, he gets progressively more intelligent, so his grammar changes. So the format and the structure of the book is really enticing for me.
Okay.
But then from the perspective of what this means for understanding of intellectual disabilities and how we react to them, Charlie comes across a number of people in the book and he forms different relationships with those people. And those relationships change according to his experiences and also from his perspective as well. He sees himself, but also other people with intellectual disabilities. So that's really interesting to me.
Right. And it's been memorable. It had a big impact on you.
Yeah. So my father gave this to me when I was 13 to read, which was possibly way above my sophistication level at that time. But I didn't know much about the sophistication of the relationships they were talking about in the book, but also I had very little understanding of intellectual disabilities as well. So it had a profound effect on me. And from a writerly perspective, the narrative, the structure of the narrative has given me inspiration, which has stayed with me today.
So what does it do to your writing? How's it?
It makes me approach my writing in a more creative way. So looking at different formats that are creative and inspiring makes you think of different ways in which to start your format of writing.
Right.
So not just a typical first-person point of view structure, that sort of thing.
Because in this book, it's his diary, is it?
It's his report taking. They ask the scientists ask him to make reports of his progress. So they're progress reports. So it is diaristic fashion, but it progressively gets more scientific as he becomes more clever.
Okay. So it's through the eyes of the protagonist.
It is through the eyes of the protagonist, but there is a silent protagonist. You might be able to see the little mouse here, and that's Algernon. Algernon is a parallel protagonist in a way because the experiment begins with Algernon. So Charlie sees this experiment working on Algernon, and then so he knows that he's gradually going to get clever. So he talks about Algernon throughout and uses him as a parallel protagonist.
Okay, well that's also an interesting technique, isn't it?
It is.
So there's the story that happens and
Yes.
what happens to Charlie.
Yeah.
And I guess there might be some sort of universal story that's
Well, there's
being
plenty of themes
said here.
that goes through. And I think what it is, the main thing is humanity and how we view people, and Charlie's perception, his lack of understanding of how he is viewed as a cognitive, someone with cognitive disability. So he only realises that people are having a superior view over him and treating him really badly once he becomes more intelligent. And though he wants to treat people with cognitive disabilities himself as better when he starts getting more intelligent, he actually is quite repelled by them, which is interesting because it shows that we are humanistic.
Wow.
So it's quite revealing. And then the subtleties of the relationships that he makes with people throughout the novel changes according to his level of understanding.
I remember it has a very sad ending.
Well, spoiler alert. The final part of the story is not explicit, so you don't really know, but
Okay.
he asks someone to put flowers on Algernon's grave.
That's right.
So you realise then that the experiment's not working because Algernon first starts to deteriorate. So Charlie actually becomes more intelligent than the scientists that make him undergo the experiment. So he solves the problem and he realises that actually the experiment is only temporary. He's the one that realises it, and he realises it through Algernon's digression.
It's a very innovative story.
Hugely innovative, because then if you're looking at the narrative structure, you see before he recognises it that his grammar changes and starts going downhill again before he even recognises it. So it's very, very sad.
Compelling story.
Very compelling and very emotive.
Thanks, Denise.
Okay.
That's it.